I wanted to talk a little bit about conformity. Something that I'm struggling with personally right now in terms of planning career. I'm going back into psychology after taking a few years off from it. And one of the things that's been rattling around in my brain is um, that makes it sound like there's not much going on in my brain. But anyway, let's not get off on a tangent so early on. We were starting so well. One of the things that I've been focusing on is how I might be productive in a field that's not only changed since I left, but I've changed quite a bit since leaving it. So when we meet again, it's going to be like this interesting situation where I've gone through a sex change, basically. Um, so my ideas about how one does interventions or how one looks at culture, or how one intervenes with men or women might be different than they were a few years ago. My worldviews have changed significantly. So that's, going to be interesting to see how I deal with things like power in the therapy room. The reason why I thought of conformity as a video topic is that I've not only stepped away from being a psychologist and all the sort of power trip that's involved with that, but I've stepped away from the working world, and I've even stepped away from having one place that I lived. There's needing to stay put. There is needing to think about my wardrobe. There's needing to think about whether or not I need to hide my ink because there's more of it now than there used to be. There's thinking about how I'm going to present my gender, if I'm going to shave my face and go by my former name. How much do I need to conform to the gender binary? How much do I need to conform to traditional paradigms for healing? Beyond sort of the workplace and career, how much do I want to conform to being an American at this point? Because one of the things that's really disturbed me since 9/11 has been the erosion of civil liberties and privacy in this country. It seems like there's been an erosion of internet privacy, in particular in both the US and the UK in recent years. I'm surprised that more people aren't freaked out about PRISM and the NSA and everything that's going on with that. I mean, Google just admitted this week that you shouldn't expect your content of your email messages to be private, and that's absurd. Like, I don't expect my mail carrier to open my letters. I expect them just to read the address. That's the extent of their knowledge of what's going on in that interaction, and then to deliver it to my mailbox. So, how much should we conform to what our government is doing? I mean, one of the things that also disturbs me, and I'm not a crazy radical or anarchist or anything like that, but I do question whether I want to stay here. Do I want to conform to what is the new norm? The new normal is a complete lack of privacy. I think sometimes in the US, the country is so spread out and huge and distracted by junk food and television and stress, frankly, because it's one of the most stressful countries on the planet, in my opinion, that we can't be vigilant on a daily basis about what our government is doing because we would all go crazy or we'd all develop ulcers. So conformity is something that I think a lot about these days. I think about it in terms of how I want to dress myself every morning. I think about it in terms of how am I going to make money. And I think of it in terms of what happens when inevitably we get an even more conservative president and all these structures have been moved into place at this point that make it impossible for people to truly resist. That concerns me, and I don't want to be conformist if it means that I'm living in some kind of police state.
I think Carson brought this topic up really well, kind of handled it really well, thinking about how widespread a topic it can be, because it not only affects like your appearance and how you view yourself and how you allow yourself to be seen by others, but it also affects how you function within society. You know, when Carson was talking about the workplace, but then just also your conscience as a member of society. And I kind of think about what kind of control we have over it, and if we only have a very limited control, then do we choose to partake in it? And if we don't want to participate in a society where they have so much control over us and how we're expected to conform at the level that we are, then how do you distance yourself from it? Can you completely disappear from it and live a life that within your own society or community that doesn't expect those things of you to that degree? Or where my mind's at the moment in terms of my own existence is, how do I find a resolution to it, and how do I find my place in this society, knowing that I disagree with a lot of it, but kind of, I don't want to turn a blind eye to everything. I want to be aware of it, but it's a difficult place to be in when you're aware of things that are going on in the world about you that you don't like, but you have limited control over. So do you completely ostracize yourself, or do you try and find a way to function within that system, knowing that you don't like it? Like, if I go back to the thing that's most apparent in my life is the fact that I'm trans, and I've always found it that there's a big contradiction within my own transness, because in some way I feel that I'm aligned within the binary, and my transition medically is me basically trying to fit in within the binary and conform in that sense. But then there's something that I've recently been thinking about, and kind of I'm becoming more aware of it and seeing how it affects me. And I've realised that there's two different aspects to how I identify. When you think about the two differences between being transsexual and transgender, there is a part of me deep down that's transsexual and very black and white, you know, where I was born female and I'm changing my sex to male. I want to function in society as male, I want to be read in that way. Passing, you know, kind of alludes to this idea that I want to be read as someone who's cis. I'm going along a process of understanding that and what it means for me. It's hard because sometimes I do want to be seen cis and sometimes I don't. And then there's this other part that comes into, you know, the idea of identifying as being transgender. And I think more for me, it's now becoming the idea of queer. So I have this transsexual identity and this very conformist sort of identity, and then there's this other thing that's battling with it, which is the queer side. And I think that for me is more of somewhat a political identity. I want to subvert somewhat, and I want to be visible because I'm questioning our ideas of conforming within gender, and the patriarchy, I suppose. But I see limitations, and you know, I think, is it enough for me? My level of conformity within my gender and how I can sort of go somewhat under the radar. You know, I can be seen as cis and I can keep my mouth shut when I want to for the most part, and no one needs to know. And then there can come a time where I want to be known as queer and I want to provoke thought and questions, and I want to be someone that can answer those questions for people the best I can. And I like being subversive. I've said a lot on YouTube throughout my transition that I don't know how to be normal, and I know that's a stupid word, but I don't know how to just align myself with a norm and live that way. Being a person that's been born into this world, firstly as female, growing up as a woman, within the patriarchy, I've always felt like the underdog in that sense. Fair enough, I'm white and I experience privilege, you know, as far as that goes, but my gender presentation was always something that was subversive. Then my sexuality came into play, and I was a lesbian, and being gay in a heteronormative society, that was something that I experienced. And then coming out as trans and experiencing, you know, being visible as trans because I wasn't passing, and I kind of really clung on to that and I really took ownership of it, kind of because I had no other option, but I'm glad that I did now. So there's always been these things in my life that have made me not fit in, and I've not conformed, whether it's been through my own choosing or not. So when I'm finally passing as privileged cis looking white male who's in their mid-20s, I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know how to, because to me, to just live in that way would be to be very ignorant, and it bothers me when I'm seen as ignorant. To me, passing and going stealth equates to ignorance, and I have a conscience, you know. I see society and I see injustice and I see things that I don't like. I see oppression and I want to do something about it, but how much can I do? So there's a lot of struggle that goes on with that, trying to find my place and find how much power I have over these things and how much I can let it slide, and how much I can do something about it, and if I can't do things about it, do I just try and accept it, or do I place myself somewhere else? And one of the things I found really interesting that Carson said was about removing yourself from society, you know, so you know, America and the UK, say, and how this idea of surveillance and how prevalent it is and how it's ever increasing these days. I can understand why you would want to leave that, because you disagree with it so heavily and power's been taken out of our hands, but I've always had a deep attraction to move into the States, not in spite of it, but because of it. I mean, for one, I would like to see what it's like to live there and to really experience it in the most extreme sense. I mean, I think Britain is very similar to the States, but I think that America always takes it that one step further. Because I would like to live in that environment just to see what it's like for myself, but I also would like to be in that place because I think it would allow me to be non-conformist in an even more extreme sense. I don't know, maybe if I lived there, I would feel differently. But I do find that interesting how I've got quite a deep desire to live somewhere that I just find so screwed up and oppressive looking. But yeah, I've been talking for a very long time now, so I need to shut up. But yeah, I'm always really want to encourage video responses, so yeah, it'd be really nice to see some of your faces. This topic it could go on for, I mean, I've not even touched on the fact that we're on YouTube, and what does that mean, you know, when we're talking about surveillance and how everything's so public, and we're taking part in doing this, and I think this project is really worthwhile, and I think we have an awareness of society and what's going on, but we're doing it through conforming, if you think of it like that, with YouTube, and you know, with the channel, the way we run everything behind the scenes is all done through Facebook, and Facebook are pretty well known for having a bit of a shoddy reputation, so yeah, we didn't even discuss anything to do with that, so it'd be nice to see if people take it further. I'll see you all later. Bye bye.
Let's go out back and plant a family tree.